Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling Beyond the Pulpit with the Good News Gang. And we are here once again to talk over those issues that we've been grappling with in the past week. And so I am joined once again by my tag team partners, Pastor Kim Metzer from Hope and Welcome Corners UMC in Hastings, and Pastor Curtis Clark from Marysville UMC. And I attempt to be your host as Pastor Matt West from Marble Memorial UMC in Milan. And thank you. We appreciate you joining us once again for our conversation, and we hope that maybe it sparks some more in your households. But let's take a look and see what we have today. But our icebreaker question, going back to some pub theology questions, are there any interesting things your name spells with the letters rearranged? And I've been thinking about our three names, and I'm like...
They're pretty basic.
Yeah. Mick?
Yeah.
Tam. To Tam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I use my full legal name, maybe I could get creative with it or what, but I'm just like, it's kind of a, I don't know.
I was going to say, is that a Wordle question? I don't know how Wordle works. I've obviously seen it kind of take over.
Oh, you need to make the link. Join Wordle World.
Yeah.
I have joined, but I am not part of the sharing community like everybody else on Facebook.
I got it in 4 today, I think.
I just do it for my own pleasure, and nobody else needs to know.
Sure.
Well,
4. I got it in 4 today.
I don't want to brag, but I got it in 3. So.
Okay. Okay.
It just helps if your first guess can get you 2 or 3 letters. You know, you're sitting pretty decent.
I use the same word every day, and I have it in hard mode now, which is actually easier for me.
Certainly test your 5-letter word vocabulary.
I play Wordscapes.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm addicted to it. I'll just admit it. This is my name is Kim, and I'm addicted to Wordscapes.
Hi, Kim.
So I know a lot of 4 and 5-letter words now.
Yep.
Yes. The things we do in our spare time, right?
Right. Spare time.
Well, there are 300 million and growing internet users in the United States who are online an average of 8.5 hours a day, a third of their daily lives. A third of Americans say they are online almost constantly. So Abu Patel, founder and president of Interfaith Youth Corps, said recently, online and offline are false distinctions. Digital spaces are just as much a part of our everyday lives as streets and sidewalks. The internet is where we work, play, and pray. How much time do you spend online, and do you see this as a problem or just how life is today?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a multi-layered question, because I think he points out, we are online almost constantly, but some of it is very, very productive. It's when we're doing things like this, or working, or meeting, or whatever. Do we all have that time where we're just kind of, I don't want to say wasting time, but entertaining ourselves with, Netflix or TikTok, or scrolling through social media or whatever? Yeah, we do. I do. I don't think it's and I think, could I have more productive time in that kind of spare time that I choose to entertain myself doing something else? Probably. I think we could all, I could dig into a book more or whatever, but I think in this day and age, it's a form for some of us. It's a form of relaxation. It's a form of entertainment.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think it's unhealthy. Again, it all comes back to what are we viewing? What are we entertaining ourselves with? What's the content?
Right. Well, and certainly, I mean, the last couple of years have, been a driving force for us being online more.
Right.
And I mean, as far as, spare time, I mean, why do we have to drive ourselves in the ground doing something every minute we're awake?
Right.
It's just, it's not feasible. It's not, something you can maintain for any, it's not like something you can do for a number of years. So, I mean, I don't see being online as a problem. I certainly think it is, how life is today, as the question was posing. The only problem that I see is if somebody gets so lost in it that they miss the interaction with other human beings.
Right.
I mean,
right.
obviously it's different doing it online here like we do when we record these and versus physically being in person, but just any kind of interaction, I guess that's my only concern about maybe the amount of time people spend online,
right.
Just getting consumed by something, whether, I mean, because people could get consumed by books,
right.
At what point do you interact and engage in conversation with somebody else to make sure that, certain things are kind of happening or,
because the
offering you
less
something different.
the less we engage, the less we want to engage. I mean, I find that the more I'm at home, the less I want to go out. It was easy to call a snow day for church activities because I just don't want to go.
Right.
Nor do I really want to be on Zoom, but it's the lesser of two evils, I guess, going out and as much as I don't like preaching to a white dot on my screen, I don't know, there was something nice about that, just being able to pre-record and put it out there and then just interact online with the people. Takes away
think that's everybody
of relationships.
Right.
Well, and I don't think you're the only one that feels that way. I think a lot of people do. I mean, it was just, initially just out of safety, and now it's another convenience. Like,
right.
I can order my groceries online. I can, have stuff delivered to my house. I can, I don't need to leave, so it's like, well, why should I then?
Right. But on the flip side, it's also made it easier to help those that we, I can send stuff to my parents, or Steve can send stuff to his brother, and it helps bridge that distance gap. So
it's kind of sad, though, to think about it, in the fact that, like you said, you get to avoid the messy relationship stuff, but what about the good ones? It's certainly,
and we need that human interaction. I mean, when Steve's mom was in the nursing home in Port Huron, we were over there several times a month. Even if Zoom were an option, it wouldn't have been an option for her.
Right.
So, and that was important. And so we're less likely to make the drive now, primarily because his brother and my parents both have internet, and we can talk on the phone. But it's in the balance.
I think it's interesting how, as we are, we're approaching, almost 2 years now of this COVID issue, and thinking back to the first initial couple of months of, lockdown, when we were, we were locked down, and all the excitement that we were anticipating when we got to come back together, the little memes that were shared and this and that. And I think, there was that initial, when we got to do that, excitement. But now, as we've kind of journeyed through it continually, I think people have kind of embraced this idea of, I don't miss everybody. I can kind of now pick and choose who I want to hang out with, because I can maybe use, COVID as an excuse or something. And I think we've gotten a lot more comfortable with isolation or being, was kind of withdrawn.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, I think, the extroverts who are still really challenged by some of these things. As someone who is not necessarily an extrovert, I'm not. So,
interestingly enough, as part of this discussion, there's a quote from Pope Francis that back in 2014, he said, the internet offers immense possibilities for encounter and solidarity. This is something truly good, a gift from God.
I see that.
Well, I think
it's about the balance. I mean, everything we have is a gift from God. It's in how we use it.
Right. I mean, the fact that the three of us, and when schedules allow, the five of us gather in this forum, it's a gift from God, because if this pandemic hadn't happened, that we wouldn't have formed this friendship that we all have now, this connection. And there's other groups that I'm a part of, on different media circles, social media platforms too, where there's a group of us that, on a day-to-day basis connect, and it might just be through, texting each other or messaging each other, whatever. But these things have been formed and have happened. To where, there's a group on Twitter that every morning there's a guy who kind of coordinates and sends out this tweet with, there's about 18 or 19 of us in, and it's this good morning group, and it's people from all across the world. So we've all gotten to kind of know each other, and like today was someone's birthday, so we're all wishing a happy birthday. And it takes 10-20 minutes out of the day during the whole course of the day to interact, but it's created opportunities for connection and experiences, and from people of different backgrounds, of different faiths, of different origins, country of origins. It's really kind of interesting.
That's cool.
Going back to something you said, Pastor Curtis, and, relating a little bit to something Pastor Kim said earlier as well. I think maybe moving forward, maybe we should approach this as a time of self-evaluation for our congregations, for people to kind of look, because I believe there are people out there that it's like, well, it's easier for me to enjoy worship in the comfort of my own home online than having to maybe deal with some of those people that I don't like so much, because maybe they're not the nicest people, even though they're Christians and members of the same church, so maybe it's time for some maybe self-reflection as opposed to, self-evaluation, some reflection on who we are, as people, especially when we gather, because you would think that people would have been, that excited, getting back together. And I don't know if everybody necessarily feels that way.
Right. I mean, I think we all can say that we have lost congregants. The folks who were kind of on the fringe of, regular worship attenders, coming maybe twice a month, maybe every 3 or 4 weeks. And I mean, we've got some of those in my church who we just haven't seen them since we've come back. We've been back in person now for over a year, just over a year. We haven't seen them, but they're not coming back. I mean, they were kind of right on that edge before, and this just gave them the excuse, the okay not to come in person when we shut down.
Right.
But we've also seen where we've reached out to new people who are coming, and we've reached out to people who first, were first introduced to us online, and have made the switch from worshiping online to actually coming into the building and worshiping there, and or engaging now in the life of the church, which is exciting too. So,
Well, so speaking of, maybe the internet or what being a gift from God, a student at Cornell has helped create Robo Rabbi. It's an app that uses artificial intelligence to generate actionable goals derived from the weekly Torah portion read on Saturdays in synagogues around the world. How do you feel about AI offering people a set of personalized recommendations for spiritual and moral growth? And then I'll save the second question after maybe we discuss this for a second. Well, I'll just throw it out there. Sorry. It says, would you turn to a robo pastor for guidance?
It's coming into this realm. We use it everywhere else. Those of us that wear Fitbits, we have, it's a digital encourager, or, it gives you your stats, and just like they read the Torah portion, and it this Robo Rabbi would individualize it for a person, just like our Fitbit does. I use the Weight Watchers, the WW app, and I'm not naive enough to believe that the "Hey, good job" texts are generated by a person. It's generated by an algorithm that puts together how much food I ate and the weight that I've lost, and formulates that into a message and a goal for the next week. This sounds crazy on the surface, but it's not really any different than what we're doing already.
Yeah.
I don't know I could turn to a robo pastor for guidance.
Yeah, I think to an extent we've been using this for a while, kind of like what Pastor Kim is saying. I don't think it's unusual for people in our congregation to Google something they're struggling with, grief, doubt.
Their pastor does that. Yeah.
Yep. And kind of, I don't want to say be pacified by what they're finding, but use it in a way to maybe help them through something. I don't think it's ever going to replace that one-on-one care that we're able to give, whether it's in person or over an online setting, to where you need that set of listening ears and compassionate person in front of you to just to be present. But I think you made the great point about the algorithms. I was one night last week just searching. Our oldest son is looking to possibly go into music education, and just started looking at different colleges and universities around the state and in the geographic area. And then ever since then, my timeline now on Facebook is flooded with the same university. So we've all experienced that at some capacity. So we're kind of profiling ourselves, by the things we talk about, the things we search for. And so I think it's something that could be added to as individuals, added to our kind of holster for care and for faith.
Yep. Agreed.
I think it's certainly a tool that, if utilized properly, could be very helpful. Going back to my earlier thought, I guess my concern is that somebody actually taking it to completely replace the human pastor.
Right.
I think that's a little concerning for somebody to solely rely on AI to, guide them on their spiritual journey.
Right.
I think it's certainly a tool that can be used to help, but as far as solely being like, here's my pastor, you know.
Well, it's like customer service bots. I mean, when you chat with customer service on anything, at least initially, it's almost always a bot. I mean, maybe I wouldn't say almost always, but often, it's a a computer that interprets what you're asking and throws out something. We'll never get rid of human customer service, I hope, but this is just going in the same direction as everything else.
I know it's going to be bad if we get to a point where it's like, hey, Pastor Siri,
Right. Or when
what is
you have to wonder though, is there a day coming when someone is able to program in to an AI type presence or whatever it is, and they're able to preach a message on a topic?
Well, it'd certainly help when we want to take a vacation.
1,000 monkeys in a room can
Right.
take a novel.
Right.
As for myself personally, I probably would not turn to Robo Pastor for guidance, but I don't know. Maybe our Catholic friends would enjoy this, because then it would save them a trip to the confessional booth.
Right.
That they could just talk to their phone or computer, and
There you go.
Get it all taken
Catholic
care
Church
of.
Converting to that.
Yeah. Well, in a recent New York Times piece, Tish Warren wrote that churches should stop offering online services because embodied is better. What is your reaction to this? So we've been talking about the convenience of the internet and maybe having a robo pastor or robo rabbi. This person saying we need to be together. What's your reaction to this?
On the surface, I agree. We are better together, and we need to come together. And the more we're apart, like I said, the more we're staying apart. It becomes easier. I honestly don't want to go back into the church on Sunday because I've been gone for 3 weeks and for mostly. And, it is easier, but we weren't called to easy. This discipleship road is not, we were not called to easy. We weren't called to comfortable. And we are better together. Iron sharpens iron, and it's hard to do that across the screen. I wish we could do this in person. The 3 or 5, 4 of us that can get together. We do still need the online option. I think that has been a great enhancement, and we need to look at it as an enhancement, not a replacement.
Right. I think, again, I would agree that on the surface, I understand what she's saying, and you can never replace in-person worship with online worship. You can never replace that connection of the body gathered together. But we also know that the hour on Sunday morning is no longer sacred in our culture, in our world. That there are people who working retail jobs and different positions, in medical fields that 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock on Sunday they're working. Mm-hmm. Or someone who is sick, someone who is recovering from surgery, who physically cannot be in the building. Right. Can still participate in the life of the church temporarily through an online worship. And so I think there's great value in it. And I was one of the long ones who held out long, before the pandemic of going to online worship, because my fear was just that why should I give someone another excuse not to be there on Sunday morning? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we have seen the value of it, obviously. I think we all have snowbirds in our church who, when they escape south for the winter, I know my people are still worshiping with us online on Sunday morning, and also going to their church that they go to down there, or they're coming back and watching it at a later time to still stay connected. And I think how we craft our online worship allows people to still feel connected in that way. Yeah. So I would, again, on the surface, agree, but I think once you start looking at the reasons why we do it, I would have to disagree with what she says. Mm-hmm.
Well, I tried pulling up the piece, but apparently I've reached my limit of free views of the New York Times, so I couldn't get it to come up. But Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting debate. I think part of her argument is just certainly it was a blessing at the beginning of the pandemic, where now it's kind of, become a crutch, for some people, where it's just, I don't know, complacency, or you can say laziness or what, where it's like, well, I could go, but I'll just watch it. I think in terms of people when they're out of town and want to still see what's going on at their home church, it's fantastic. But I guess just to completely remove yourself from something, it at some point it's going to hurt, because you're not going to be able to get, some of the things that we've talked about today in terms of with that personal interaction via online, because like certainly there's a thought that it's like, okay, well, maybe in an effort to get people to come back in person, record the service and post it later as opposed to doing it live. It's, you can kind of, you could consider playing that game, but then, there's the concern of losing people, so I mean, there are certainly pluses and minuses to it, just like anything else we do in the church. Because I know a lot of people that have mentioned they'll have people out of town, out of state that haven't attended their church but are watching online. And so it's allowing us the opportunity to connect and either bring somebody else to Christ or, just provide them with maybe the worship that they're not getting wherever they live. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting conversation but I don't think, based on the premise of what she's trying to say, it goes back to that almost the argument of like, at the beginning of the pandemic, like we have to have church, because church is, us getting together in the building, like little C church, yes. Big C church, no. Right. So, but it was just, I know all of us had that experience where we had church members that are like, we have to be in the building.
Right.
Well, we don't have to, is it nice? Yes. Does it allow us, some time together or, physical interaction? Absolutely. But it isn't necessary, and thank goodness internet has evolved enough that we were able to do, live streaming of, services or what, but
right.
And we never know how far our reach will go. So
right.
I just finished I go up to the deadline for most things these days. So our church stats, as you know, are due Monday. And I got them in a couple hours before deadline. But I wasn't
the only one.
Whatever. It's not midnight, or it's not.
They're done.
I haven't gone to bed yet, right? No, I'm kidding. I got them in.
They're done.
But anyway, so I was looking at our online stats, and I didn't have time to go to YouTube, so I was just using Facebook, and I, for consistency, I just look at the 1 minute views. I figure if they hung in with us for a minute, I'm counting them. And there were several Sundays, and I should have excluded them as on the fringes, but there were several Sundays services where it was a couple hundred people, which is unusual for us. And I left them in there as part of the average, but I figured, maybe if it's the same person going back and watching it for a minute, we just never know where the reach is. And there were, of course, several different countries and probably scammers that are trying to get in on something, but you never know how God might work through that. Right. So I'll keep it out there and
yeah. I think I shared this with you guys, and this comes from just a place of humility. Please understand this. But I had a friend of ours from our home church in Livonia who was watching our live worship in Marysville last summer, I think, and we were in the middle of a mission project or supporting a mission, and she sent a fairly sizable check up to support some of the work of the church. She's not a member of my church, right, but she's been watching online from 800 miles away.
Wow.
Felt that she wanted to support, and so that's that's what this avenue does for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never know.
Yep.
We just don't.
Yeah.
So taking that away would do more harm than good.
Absolutely. I think
it is better, but this is an enhancement.
Yep.
Yep.
Something the article did make me question is just the verbiage we might use with doing online worship, because she specifically pointed out, the line, join us in person or online, in terms of maybe just specifically talking, like you would if you weren't online, but providing the service online, because I think a lot of times I think in my verbiage anyway, during the course of a worship service, I'm talking to both.
Same.
So like I'm talking to those that are there, and then I use lines that pertain to the online audience. So just, I don't know, for some reason that statement she made, or pointing out that line, because I've used it, where I'm like, do I just talk as if like I'm only talking to the congregation and people can watch that online? Maybe it then, gets people to come in, or it's just like, you're just watching what's going on at church, because I initially thought like, I need to, knowing that there's there's a fair amount of people that are watching online, certainly address them as well. So I don't know. I mean, it just kind of made me think about it.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And, it's just more food for thought. So.
Right.
Well, at the end of this week's questions from Pub Theology, there's a statement that says, sin is not ended. It's actually scripture, excuse me. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues, referencing Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19. Discuss this in terms of social media posts.
Say it again. Sin is not ended.
Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues.
I think we should just end this recording with that.
Yeah, that's a great, it is. It's, James reminds us of how powerful the tongue is.
Yep. I'm prudently holding my tongue. Yep.
The old adage of choose your words wisely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
you can't talk your way out of sin.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly.
You can't talk your way into it.
You can't end it by multiplying words. So it's not like the more you try to argue it or make your case, still sin.
Yeah.
It's bad enough if you think it, but then to actually say it and put it out there, that is certainly one of the downfalls, I think, to the internet and social media is the keyboard warriors, as I like to call them, come out, because it's a lot easier for them to type what they're saying than to actually say it to somebody's face. So it's like now they can make up a username and hide behind, their secret identity and just spew whatever it is they want, because there isn't anybody that can just, I don't agree with you to their face. It's like, I can say whatever I want without interruption and, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think that too, as well as, if
if I say something publicly and it's recorded and it's there, and someone posts that, I can't take back what I mean, the words are there, the video is there, the audio is there. The
And
proof
that was my hesitancy in going online.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's almost the equivalent of the post meeting parking lot meeting where people can, whatever they did, they couldn't bring themselves to say in the meeting in front of everybody. We can say, here, but it's still there. Like you said, I mean, that's like, but I deleted it. It doesn't really get deleted.
There is no off the record online.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I was involved in a recent conversation with a group that I participate here in Milan with that talking about potential candidates for school board coming up, and one of the things that was discussed was certainly take a look at your social media, because there was conversation about some names that they had heard of other community members that were thinking about talking, and then knowing, they're friends with them on Facebook and then seeing some of their posts, like certainly, if people see that, could be detrimental to, them running, or just like certainly could change a person's opinion when, they see it. I mean, and a lot of employers will Facebook stalk somebody when they're applying for a job just to kind of see what kind of person you are before they consider hiring you. So, I mean, you certainly have to be careful.
One of the things that I think I have learned during this time, this especially the last year, is what you just said, is going forward. I will do a great more deal of due diligence when it comes to who I'm supporting for school board, who I'm supporting for county commissioners, city council, because we have seen when it's come down to, making, decisions, especially around things like masking or whatever in our communities, the influence that it's being carried by some of these folks, and how they're able to navigate around different issues. And so, it's I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes that, not to just blindly put a check in the box, and a mark in the voting box for someone because you saw their name when you were walking in the voting booth.
Yeah.
And I will be stalking some Facebook pages. That's what I'm saying.
Good.
Well, I mean, I think it's certainly a tool that, I mean, I guess I equate it to kind of like premarital counseling. Like if you can find the problem before you enter this, arrangement, it's better than getting into it and then down the road finding out and being like, oh, or as a business owner, you hire somebody and then they're out in public totally like tarnishing your name because of the whatever, soapbox they're standing on. So that is one way in which I think, the internet and social media are helpful in trying to look for those red flags, as we to say.
For sure.
So. Well, that I think brings us to the end of today's discussion. It's certainly some interesting things for people to continue to talk about. Yes, the internet has certainly provided us with a lot of wonderful things, but I guess how it intertwines with religion and church and attending and all those good things. What do you think? But before we sign off and say goodbye, any final thoughts from either of you before we sign off?
Yeah, I think it was a good conversation, and just it's lots to think about as we continue to navigate through life and this thing that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I'm prudently holding my tongue.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a great comeback from now on. I'm prudently holding my tongue.
Holding my tongue. Yes.
Well, I mean, Proverbs is the book of wisdom. So,
Right.
yeah, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. Well, my friends, thank you for joining me today for this discussion. And thank you to those of you who have been watching. Let us know what you think in the comments. It's always interesting to hear from those who watch what they think, or if maybe you've got a question, or maybe something you want to throw out there that you're wrestling with that maybe we can talk about in future shows. So we thank you. And until we meet again, peace be with you.